Blue check, better hold your breath. I'll slap you out your Ray-Bans. Toe-to-toe, we'll do-si-do and dip until you faceplant. If you wants to I came to be a prophet, but I'll settle for pariah. We filled the air with DDT and called the wind Mariah.
When you are not with where majority of Americans are, then, you know, that is extreme. That is an extreme way of thinking.
Set you free, but I really want to let you be. And a part of me wished I could set myself aside, just let you take the ride, just chalk the rest up to destiny. I could let you believe that the only restraints in life are the size of your dreams. Let you believe each kid grows up with the world at their feet. When I know too well it's open season, I know they're taking stock and raising stocks and raising stock. And I'm simply not here to sit and watch as you learn the lesson all cogs are taught. Keep your head down and keep to task and just keep on blocking the rest of it all out. Just keep on with the rest of the herd of a million adjacent oblivious workers. The forest unseen for the trees, and the trees unseen for the fallout. No, what's more damning, baby, the truth or the ignorance? Fuck it, I honestly wonder if I see the answer so well. Baby, believe me well, I know it's scary, I scare myself. If I could find a way out of my head, I would run like hell. I would ditch this body politic, mindless occupant somewhere far from the dismal abyss. In the tranquil crystalline bliss of the beach, I could rest with the rest of the shells. And if anyone asks I'm anywhere else, if I'm really needed, just light the candle, then read the book and then ring the bell. Oh, my untarnished heart, my little perfect soul, this world will melt your mercy down so they can sell its gold. This world will take your worth and then demand 1,000-fold. It's full of greedy pigs who'll eat you out of house and home. They'll strip your bank account and sweep you somewhere down the road, and then return to eat your tent and shitty bike you rode. Your bottled water, only shoes and coat and broken phone. Then smiling in your face they'll tell you that the shelter's closed.
When you are not with where majority of Americans are, then, you know, that is extreme. That is an extreme way of thinking.
Hoped you would never find out, knew that you had to know. Pulling what's left of my mind out, trying to tell you so. I tried to block the light out, knew you could feel its glow. I've been here holding my hands out, trying to keep you close. Trying to keep you Of the free, and you'll know us by the trail of dead. It's just one more world war to complete the set. When you live by the pike, you die by the pith. You die wide-eyed, still pleading the fifth, or crying divine epithets and pathetic attempts at defense. All empathetic for those on your side of the fence. Well, I'll gladly put you and your legacy into an alternate tense of faltering senses and altered events. Like hunted ain't a hearse, it's a reaper's stretch. How sweet, she said. Bunch of hordes in the street like it's Evil Dead. Where the thin blue line meets razor's edge. And where the corporate ladder ascends to a steel-toed boot that awaits on the ledge. You'll be licking it fresh at your boss's request till it stomps each finger and watches you fall to your death. And drown in an ocean of debt. Gone with the fodder who gathered to honor the patient left, who purity tested themselves into sections, step by step, till the next election, when it's just one them and the sound of their well-read theorized breath. That's harm reduction for the lowly cost of you holding your nose and just openly buying the theft. Maybe that's all in the flick of the pen. Maybe we're all one unmarked van from a trip to the pen, being guarded by pigs who exist on a diet of dying breaths of much worthier men. Honey, heaven's expecting you. Just don't get too hung up on who they let in. Just look up at the shine of the pearly gates. You don't need to worry if there's lead in the paint. You don't need to worry if there's lead in the water, lead in the milk, lead in the honey, lead in the caustic embrace of the Heavenly Father. Lead is the flavor of passive perpetual slaughter. Lead is the taste of us led to the ledge by the lure of the legend of expert consensus, and then beckon to stretch it just one step farther. And I hope all the folks who were boastfully gloating and toasting themselves as the heroes of COVID for boosting their boosters and doing their part are now equally thrilled to be starstruck martyrs. All laid in a government grave with anonymous markers, like you're back from the carvers and off to the splicer. You're the very first wave to be slain in the war against Pfizer, that 100 years war against Pfizer. They are thinning the crowd that is striking right now to bleed adequate pay from those inhuman misers, who all sit in their office and designate coffins to people regarded as nothing but profit for Kaiser. Still the Dems want you nicer. Dems want you softer. Dems want you kinder. Yeah, they all want you graciously starving in silence. You will speak when you're spoken to. Rest of the time, you and all of us peasants are merely depressing statistics neglected in Congress's binders. All bled, bone dry, then fed to the grinder. Our headstones line each step as reminders. That's a lesson in object permanence learned in the furnace by workers consigned to the fire. Workers bled, bone dry, then fed by the fed to the grinder. Fed by the fed to the grinder. Now the Fed went straight to your head. Mind what you hide in your size unsaid, and your eyes turn blind to the signs unread. Flag bright red, so you let it in bed. You let it inside, and you'll see that it's fed. Never you mind that it grinds your wealth into bread for itself, then it bleeds you dry, then it dines on the dead. Now the Fed went straight to your head. Mind what you hide in your size unsaid, and your eyes turn blind to the signs unread. Flag bright red, so you let it in bed. You let it inside, and you'll see that it's fed. Never you mind that it grinds your wealth into bread for itself, then it bleeds you dry, then it dines on the dead. And the Fed went straight to your head. Mind what you hide in your size unsaid, and your eyes turn blind to the signs unread. Flag bright red, so you let it in bed. You let it inside, you'll see that it's fed. Never you mind that it grinds your wealth into bread for itself, bleeds you dry, then dines on the dead. The Fed went straight to your head. Mind what you hide and your sighs unsaid, and your eyes turn blind to the signs unread. Flat bright red, so you let it in bed. You let it inside and you'll see that it's fed. Never you mind that it grinds your wealth into bread for itself, then it bleeds you dry, then it dines on the dead. Here's where our leaders would see us all led. Here's where our leaders would see us all led. Here's where our leaders would see us all led. Here's where our leaders would see us all led. The feather went straight to your head. Mind what you hide and your sighs unsaid, and your eyes turn blind to the signs unread. Black, bright red, so you let it in bed. You let it inside and you'll see that it's fed. Never you mind that it grinds your wealth into bread for itself.
Just an off-the-cuff chat between you and me. Us. We want to talk right down to earth in a language that everybody here can easily understand.
Who are these people?
It's us. We're these people.
I love that intro. I love that intro so much.
I'm here with a different co-host this time, Oz LaFave.
Hey guys, thanks so much for having me on.
Friend of the show, DJ Joe Nice. How are you, friend?
What's good?
And you hear Nick say this all the time. The United States is the most propagandized country in the world.
We are so fucked, you guys. Again, I'm sorry for being cynical, but seriously,
No.
we're fucked. We are
Right.
fucked. We are well and truly fucking fucked.
Just appreciate all the work that you do and the platforms that you all are providing.
Hey, you. Doing good. How are you guys doing?
And as independent media, we have a responsibility to be, we don't hide our bias, obviously, but we must stay true to the facts.
What's up, Pam?
Cheers and salutations. Smoke 'em if you got 'em.
But I am here with a man that I've been waiting to talk to for the last couple of years, Nico House.
As an educator, what I would suggest is that, first of all, podcasts like these are made.
So you need to be an example for the people and for the future, knowing that your words can actually change the future.
What do you feel? What would Kwame Ture feel we would have to do?
Well, politics is every day of every minute. You have to be aware of what's going on. Not voting on one day, so the vote has never meant anything. So I'm not a Democrat.
See, I would call that guy the Black Obama.
No. The issues that we talk about, listen to us.
As always, kids, labels are bad. Stay independent. Good night, fam.
INN News.
Hi, everybody. Is another holiday edition of INN News. Hope everyone got what they wanted. Got a lava lamp. Look, who doesn't love lava lamp? It had lava and it's a lamp. It's the best stuff. Best thing. We got a $20 tip on the Rockfin. So thank you, Animairs. We appreciate that. I didn't get to Xmas bomb you yet. If it weren't for INN, I'd be a lot less sane. Me too. Same. But yeah, we did a pre-recorded episode with Brett Wilkins from Common Dreams. Brett is a writer and activist whose work focuses on issues of war, peace, and human rights. He's a staff writer at Common Dreams and a member of the International Socialist Writers Group Collective. He was a longtime freelance journalist and essayist whose articles appeared in a wide variety of print and online publications, including Counterpunch, Truthout, Salon.com, Antiwar.com, Asia Times, the Jakarta Post, Alternet, teleSUR, Yahoo News, Mondoweiss, EcoWatch, and Venezuela Analysis. So we've had him on the show before. He always does great stuff, but we wanted to talk to him about a particular article he had about the bombardment of Gaza. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and play that interview. So hopefully everyone enjoys. I'll try to get to your comments after the interview. So yeah, appreciate everyone. Hopefully everyone had a good holidays. And here we go.
You wrote recently 2 articles that we do want to highlight, just in terms of what you've been writing about and just have a conversation of your thoughts as to what's been happening in Palestine right now, given this is, I would say, an area of expertise of yours. And then, yeah, just kind of have it be very easy breezy kind of discussion. if you don't mind. So I do want to start. Actually, hold on, let me get my clips up. So if you want to put up the first slide.
Yes, I can do
that. So this is actually this story that you wrote. And I've seen this mentioned in the news over the weekend, more especially, is that the bombing in Gaza ranks among the most devastating in history. So for folks who are new, all articles will be linked in the description below. If you want to follow Brett and especially, the other writers at Common Dreams, feel free. We'll also link them as well. But do you want to kind of share, obviously for time, since we have you, we won't read it, but can you share a little bit more about, in terms of this, how significant this is and, the ongoing effects of what this can mean as far as, global politics moving forward?
Well, we see something that's unprecedented in the annals of modern warfare, and that's just not hyperbole. That's military experts and historians speaking. As of today, it's nearly 21,000 killed, 70% of that women and children, which is, over almost 15,000 women and children. In a course of just 81 days. And first of all, it's important to call it by its name. It's a genocide.
Yep.
Based on the legal definition under the Genocide Convention. People are always like, what kind of genocide, in which kind of genocide does the population grow? Well, first of all, it's not growing right now. And second of all, the definition of genocide legally doesn't even have to involve killing under Article 2 of the Genocide Convention. However, there's plenty of killing. And usually the hardest part about proving a genocide is proving the intent. Well, just about every Israeli cabinet minister and many Knesset members are on records making genocidal statements. And so we have almost 21,000 people, all told, almost 80,000 if you count the dead, the maims, the missing. Thousands and thousands of people are missing, believed buried under the rubble. We're close to 80,000 people. Now, if you compare, by comparison, let's look at the Russian invasion of Ukraine. It was and all this language we have about Russian war crimes, and Blinken and Biden accused Russia of genocide about a month into the campaign when only several thousand people were killed. And up to this day, the death toll for civilians is, and not to be, it's not to be minimalized or anything, it's a lot of people. It's 10,000 total, 560 children. Well, based on the figure of 8,000 children, which has now gone up in Gaza, that's 14 times as many children as Russian forces killed in Ukraine. 14 times. And yet, we have our leaders that are not even willing to call it, Biden, the furthest Biden's gone, has called it indiscriminate bombing. But, they're not just, there's a reason why they're calling him Genocide Joe. It's because he's denying it while seeking $14.3 billion in additional funding on top of the $4 billion that Israel already gets in conditions-free, no strings attached money from the United States each year. And you know what kind of bombs they're falling on Gaza? Those are American bombs. Now, I'm not here to gloss over United States war crimes. The United States has killed more civilians in other countries than any other armed force in the world this century.
Mm-hmm.
However, even the United States won't use a 2,000-pound bomb in an urban area. The last time we did that, it was an accident. In 1991, we blew up 480 Iraqis in a shelter. They thought it was disused, they say. But anyway, point being, the United States won't even drop those bombs in urban areas, but yet we have no problem with Israel doing it.
Right. You mentioned that in the article that these bombs, as you said, that the U.S., if push came to shove, would never use them, but we're very willing to give them away, essentially, to Israel for them to use in Gaza. But funny enough, Reef, if you want to go to slide 13, because you mentioned intent as far as this war. So you linked this. So you pulled this from, I believe, is from my case Bruno on Twitter. So you linked this in terms of what Bibi and then some other Israeli administrators basically said, that I think has been underreported in mainstream media in terms of how they feel about Palestinians and how essentially they need to destroy the territory. So if you want to play that clip.
Yes, sir.
זכור את אשר עשה לך עמלק, נצטווינו. אנו זוכרים ואנו נלחמים.
Now go and smite Amalek, utterly destroy all that they have, and spare them not, but slay both man and women, infant and suckling ox, and sheep, camel, and ass. Right? Samuel 15:3. Old Testament, fun
It's an entire
terribleness.
nation out there that is responsible. It's not true. This rhetoric about civilians not aware, not involved, it's absolutely not true.
אין חשמל, אין מזון, אין מים, אין דלק. הכל סגור. אנחנו נלחמים בחיות אדם.
Human animals.
נוהגים בהתאם.
Very puzzled by the constant concern which the world is showing for the Palestinian people and is actually showing for these horrible, inhuman animals who have done the worst atrocities that this century has seen.
עזה לא תחזור להיות מה שהייתה וחמאס לא יהיה. חסל את הכל.
مع هيك وحوش بشرية رايحين نتعامل كيف لازم. إسرائيل فرضت إغلاق كامل على غزة.
هناك إسرائيليون يعني وصفوا الفلسطينيين في غزة وصفوهم بأنهم حيوانات بل أقل من حيوانات.
أنا لا أسويهم بالحيوانات لأن هذا تحقير للحيوانات.
هذا رأيك دكتور مردخاي؟
نعم هذا رأيي.
تكسחו אותם כמה שיותר, שלא להשאיר מהם זכר. שלא הם, לא אמא שלהם, לא הילדה שלהם, לא התינוקות שלהם.
Families, mother and children.
אסור להם לחיות לחיות האלה. אתה יש לך שכן ערבי, אתה לא תחכה שהוא יבוא אליך הביתה. תיכנס אליו הביתה ותירם.
Creating a severe humanitarian crisis in Gaza is a necessary means to achieve this goal. Gaza will become a place where no human being can exist.
לא, אתה חושב שאנחנו יכולים להרוג מאות אלפי פלסטינים ברצועת עזה והדבר הזה יעבור?
תראה, עכשיו בתקשורת הזרה יוצאת הודעה בשם ישראל שמיליון פלסטינים כבר ירדו מדרום הרצועה דרומה, וכל מי שנשאר שם נחשב כמחבל.
Invest this energy in one thing, erasing all of Gaza from the face of the earth. The Gazan monsters will fly to the southern fence and try to enter Egyptian territory, where they will die.
השמיד את עזה עכשיו. עכשיו. עזה הופכת לדרזדן. כן.
How many American soldiers were killed in the battle for Hiroshima? Israel has dropped 18,000 tons of bomb on Gaza, 1.5 times more. Was that more than dropped on Hiroshima, right? Lebanon.
Jeez, wow.
I mean, like
it reminds me of some of those stupid rappers who like rap about their crimes and then get arrested because of that. I mean, they basically just laid out the entire prosecution case for the ICC if there was a prosecutor at the ICC that was more like Fatou Bensouda instead of Karim Khan, who I don't know why. Maybe he's, biding his time and building a good case, but the ICC is not looking too good right now.
We've covered how, those particular war crime tribunals usually are only poised to go after African leaders most of the time, so it's, this is just blatant calls for weapons of mass destruction that they are willing to use. Don't go Googling why Kennedy might have been offed by them, but, it might have had something to do with that. But yeah, this is, we've been seeing this over and over again and covering it constantly, and our opinions haven't changed. So
Brett, I wanted to ask you being in more traditional media. But why, in your opinion, do you believe that something like this obviously should be damning, that mainstream media should be reporting it in this way en masse, but they're not? And you even mentioned before we went live that you tweet stuff like this, and often that they're, shadow banned. Why, in your opinion, and maybe if you can give some insight what you can say, why do you think independent media will not report it in the way that you're willing to? And yeah, what do you believe is the issue regarding this, that like media, independent, mainstream media is not as forthcoming as you have been in reporting on Palestine?
There's an extra level of caution that goes along with criticizing Israel, simply for the fact that they've the former Israeli education minister Shlomo Aloni said, anti-Semitism is a trick that we use to stifle criticism. If the critic is Jewish, then they're self-hating. Well, one of the greatest disservices, and I'm Jewish, my mother's Jewish, half my family's Jewish. One of the greatest disservices that they've done is just thrown this sweeping blanket accusations of anti-Semitism at any and all criticism. And if they're Jewish, then they're not real Jews, or they're self-hating Jews. There's an extra level of caution, even at Common Dreams, where we could speak the truth as it's happening. You have to be careful using a word even like Zionist, which shouldn't be a loaded term. It's one who believes in a homeland for the Jewish people in the land of Palestine, which is it's a settler colonial thing. It's inherently racist as far as I'm concerned, but it's a word, and so you have to be very, very careful when criticizing Israel. On top of that, number two, in my lifetime, I'm going to be 50. We've supported genocides. United States. I have to get rid of that habit of saying we. The United States has supported genocides in Paraguay, the Aceh people, the Stroessner regime, Guatemala under Rios Montt, the Mayan genocide, the green lighting of the genocidal invasion of East Timor by the Kissinger Ford in 75. West Papua, the Bangladesh in 1971, Sri Lanka throughout the 1970s and 80s. Every single the Anfal against the Kurds, the betrayal of the Kurds and the Kurdish genocide that we supported by giving precursors to chemical weapons to Saddam Hussein, the famous handshake with may he rot forever, not that one, the other one, Rumsfeld, and Kissinger as well. So the United States has either supported or turned a blind eye. Rwanda, Burundi in the early 70s, the Rohingya, either supported or turned a blind eye to every single genocide. The general default setting of the United States has always been to support dictators and genocides. And so the press, the mainstream media, the corporate media especially, as they don't address these issues to begin with. It's another extra level when it's the special relationship that we have with Israel, the only democracy in the Middle East, also the only country in the world that simultaneously commits the crimes of invasion, occupation, settler colonization, ethnic cleansing, apartheid, and now add genocide to the top of that.
Yeah.
Now, what do you do when you're from a country that was founded through genocide? The country was founded through settler colonialism. There's so many parallels. And if you read the works of the early Zionists, they were very clear about this. Ahad Ham, the father of spiritual Zionism, there's a quote, and you got to be careful with quotes because half the time they never were said. There's a famous quote that was never said, that it was, I went to Palestine and I saw the bride, but she was already taken. Well, that's basically an encapsulation of what Ahad Ham said when he went in 1891. He said, well, we are accustomed to believe here in Europe that it's an empty land for the taking, but it's already taken, it's already tilled, it's not empty. And the moment that the Arabs are not dumb, Arabs are not dumb. They know what's
taking her by force.
And if it ever gets to the point, where we are, where they feel that we are usurping them, then they will not end well. And David Ben-Gurion said it himself. He's the George Washington of Israel, said, a people who fights against the usurpation of its land will not tire easily. The earlier Zionists were far more, and here's another thing. You asked about the media here. It's far, far, far easier to criticize Israel as an Israeli journalist in their own media, not so much since October 7th. Haaretz is putting out some really scary stuff, but it's much easier to criticize Israel from within Israel than it is from the United States. There's 27 states that have laws that you're not allowed to enter into a state contract, if you don't either. It's not a loyalty pledge, but you have to pledge not to boycott Israel. Right. And so now many levels to that question you asked.
We talked about Kennedy wanted members of AIPAC, well, what wasn't AIPAC, precursor, right, to sign FARA Act stuff, right? You have to state that you're a foreign agent, right? And that didn't happen. You could probably figure out why. LBJ definitely didn't decide to do that. So yeah, I mean, here at the show, we tend to do a thing that you should be doing at home, is following the money, which there's lots of it being involved here. But one of the things you mentioned about one of the reasons why this bombing can happen is this right here. Real estate companies are coming in and buying up land and taking it. Not that they weren't already. And we've talked about settler community wants what, Care Bear? From the Sinai to the Nile. That's
Euphrates
to the Nile. That's it.
Euphrates to the Nile.
Yeah,
that's Israel.
Yeah. So
I would be careful with that story that you just showed up there. You know, the truth is just as bad, if not worse. But apparently, the company said that was supposed to be an internal joke. But I mean, it's
we were joking. We were totally joking.
Well, yeah, it's like hot on a hot mic or some shit. You know, it's like, excuse me, sorry for the language. It's like,
no, you're good.
But that you know, you got to be careful with that particular one, because it's like they're projecting what they would do if they, you know, who makes a joke like that, even who superimposes luxury beachfront homes over the ruins of, you know. But here's the thing that they're in is the goal, and again, they've said it out loud.
Right.
They've said it out loud. They want to ethically. They don't want to. This is another Nakba, and believe me, the people who've been through it and their descendants know it. They're pushing them out. They're trying, and that's the thing. And it's interesting that you mentioned. Yes,
for a joke, it's amazing art for just a joke.
Well-produced joke.
Yeah, like this is Code Pink. An Israeli real estate company is already drawing up plans for settlements in the Gaza Strip. A house on the beach is not a dream. The ad reads below it says their employees are expelling invaders. Israel's attacks are not about defense. This is ethnic cleansing. Look at that. They got blueprints already lined up. Like, I mean, it just
with all those agents on the bottom,
right? Like,
all
like all
I don't read Hebrew anymore.
What is that? Home Depot,
those are
Hebrew, like, you know, HGTV. What's going on? You know, like your Israeli dream home 2024, like. So,
and that's the thing, you know, they want their Lebensraum. They want their Lebensraum, and they were there before, and they, you know, they're so magnanimous about the fact that they left. We left Gaza. Well, under again, like we talked about the legal definition of genocide, the legal definition of occupation, and I just learned this recently, and I know a lot about this subject, and I just found this out this year. Gaza is technically still occupied. I mean, I knew it was controlled. I call it the world's largest concentration camp. There's no, you know, it's technically under the law. It is considered occupied as under UN resolutions and under international law, because clearly they have no control, no sovereignty over that, and so they had they want to go back. You know, and you mentioned also to the Euphrates. You mentioned,
yeah.
Well, let's look what happened like about a month before this genocide. We had Netanyahu stand before, I forget what body it was, point to the map of the Middle East.
Yes.
Point to the map without any Palestine on it. Also, you know, there's this resurgent talk amongst the far right in Israel, which is the ruling of the rulers of Israel right now, about, you know, let's not stop here. Let's take back Lebanon, everything that was the 12 tribes or whatever in the Old Testament. Yeah. That includes a big chunk of Jordan, which is ironic because
they
already have their country.
They just announced that they're going to occupy the border with Egypt. Like, to me, this is we've talked about push them. We'll get to why they're pushing them south, but push them south, send them into that desert that famously,
Sinai.
you know, right? Like, you know, and then not only are they doing that, they're going to try to pay Egypt bribes to take them, right? But then they're going to occupy their border militarily at the same time. Why do you think that is? Because they're expecting retaliation and then blame it on Egypt and then push further and maybe control the Nile and, like, you know, which we both know there's a particular canal that Egypt has control of that they want control of right now. You know, like the Houthis, among many other groups, are keeping that locked down, but, you know, they're having to go all the way around the Cape, no? Isn't that what's happening? So
and insurance rates are going up and prices are going up. But you know what? I mean, and again, under international law, under United Nations resolution, people under occupation have a right to resist, including through violence. And so bless the Houthis for being the only ones, and this is me personally speaking, to have the chutzpah, to borrow a term, to do what the Arab countries are. You mentioned Egypt, and you know they're just complicit. They're just as bad. You know, Egypt, you know, the last time, actually, you mentioned the Suez Canal too. The last time the United States actually sided against Israel was in 1956 when France, Britain, and Israel conspired to take over the Suez Canal when Gamal Abdel Nasser nationalized it, and the United States took Egypt's side. And even in 1967, after you mentioned LBJ, remember when Israel bombed, like, intentionally. It was flying a large United States flag, bombed it, strafed it again. The USS Liberty incident killed, I believe, 30 U.S. sailors and wounded hundreds more. Yep. You know, that was no invade. So sometime between the Suez War and the Liberty incident,
not to mention the Levant affair, which they tried to blame Egyptians. You know, this is, by the way, I love how we get called. This is Israel admitted to these things. Like, it's not like this is their documented stuff. They documented poisoning the water supply of Gazans because it affected Israelis. They talked about they threw out Levant for this reason. Like, it's wild. So it's like they write it down and then we say it and they go, "You're lying." What do you mean? You
think they learned from another people that documented their genocidal crimes, but I guess not.
No, they would never. But Collin, you brought this video that might explain some things.
Yeah, so actually, shout out to Big Mac Crab because he sent this to me and you earlier. But he sent it because we did an extensive deep dive on the Ben Gurion Canal several weeks ago. So this is just more of a continuation of that. So I'm not sure of this TikTok, but she's kind of going to go into it a little bit. So if you don't mind playing that.
I really thought the Ben Gurion Canal was a conspiracy or something that was just undoable because it's really, really crazy. But this line that has been made cutting through Gaza is nothing like I've ever seen before. And I constantly remote sense satellites. This is actually something that I do. I analyze satellite images and I'm constantly looking at how urban fabrics are changing and transforming. This was Gaza in September, and this is Gaza right now. This was created after Israel invaded September, and this is Gaza right now. This was created after Israel invaded the Gaza forming. This was Gaza in September, and this is Gaza
after. So just that line's pretty convenient. Like
Gaza right now. This was created after Israel invaded the Gaza Strip. I have no idea what this is. September, December. Is this the Ben Gurion Canal? Is this the preparations for it? I have no idea. But I'm scared to the core of my bones. And I haven't seen anyone else produce these images. I haven't seen anyone analyze this. No newspaper outlet, no environmentalists, no scientists, no remote censoring analysts have done this. No one has produced these images. Gaza in September, Gaza now. I have no idea what to do with this information and I'm like internally freaking out.
Yeah, so I wanted to show that to you because you mentioned when I reached out for you to come on, you mentioned about the second story kind of being satire, but it's kind of hard to necessarily, I mean, at least in their view, they're saying, oh, it's a joke. But considering what we have reported previously on, there have been plans for a while about the Ben Gurion Canal to kind of counter the Suez that is owned by Egypt. It just seems a little convenient in terms of knowing that this has been a plan that Israel had since the 50s, 60s, and just having to have in circumstance have a more definite line through Gaza, potentially where the canal would be it just seems kind of convenient and kind of funny that, they are saying this to you and I'm kind of, and like, when you said that to me, I was just kind of like, I want to talk to you about
Well, come on, Collin. I mean, if you build the canal straight through there, where the luxury home's going to be? But seriously, I know about the Ben Gurion Canal project from the 1960s.
Right.
I would be a little. I mean, I haven't heard or seen anything about other than I would be a little wary of that too, because it wouldn't be that hard to build it out through Ashkelon, and or it would be a little circuitous. You'd have to like swoop up around the northern end of the Gaza Strip or whatever, but just for headache's sake,
which would cost just from an engineering standpoint, curves cost way more than straight lines, right? So they already have to go through a mountain, right? Over, like, when we've looked at this line, right? So you go from that mountain. If you go straight, takes you right through Gaza. If you got to go around all this weird rocky nonsense and like snake your way up here, like just as far as pipelines are concerned, even. But they're wanting they are wanting more than one ship lane of travel, right?
Right.
So
the issue
that's
with the Suez, it's
single
sandy.
ship.
So it's single ship.
Right,
with
like the one that got
Ben-Gurion
stuck
Canal,
there.
Because it, with the Ben Gurion Canal, because it's more rocky land, that the idea is that two ships will be able to go through.
Right.
So, but obviously because it's rocky, it's going to be more money. But this is something that has been in the plans, as you said, since the 60s.
Since the 60s.
And as Reef said earlier, the idea that the U.S. suggested at the time was nuke it in order to create
250 nuclear explosions underground. Where are the environmentalists on that one? Where are they at? Huh?
Like the Soviets did that once, didn't they?
Yeah, they used like a couple to like end a what are those like? They have them in the middle of Saudi Arabia too. Ongoing fires, right?
It was an oil flare
from natural gas, like runoff or whatever that is. Which Gaza natural gas. Anybody want to like that? That's also a thing, right? And by the way, I've had people online be like, because I put natural gas and oil, right? And they're like, no, it's just natural gas, dummy. Hey, y'all apparently forgot your middle school science classes, but where there are natural gas deposits, underneath those are what? Like, so that's called oil and petroleum and unrefined crude. That's what's underneath there. See, there's a layer. It's like, when you go get one of those fancy drinks at the bar, right? Like there's layers, of density. Gas being the less dense, so it's on top. Easier to get to, less money to drill further. So right now it's natural gas. It will soon be also oil, which let's not talk about the amount of actual oil that has been taken from the Palestinians since 1948, as well as their crocodiles. They killed all the crocodiles. They've killed all their olive trees. They've killed countless amounts of sustenance and money and whatever that the Palestinians had every right to. So I don't know how people don't see this as,
Well, I'm gonna have to correct you, Reef, because I talked to the Palestinian shopkeeper down the street whose family owns an olive farm in Palestine and the
Sure.
West Bank, and he said they haven't destroyed it because they want to take it.
Yes.
So they haven't destroyed history. It's because they've got their eyes on them.
My buddy Care Bear, family's Windrush, so he was in London for a while, right? What are those little cakes over there with the orange and chocolate? What are those called?
Jaffa cakes.
Jaffa cakes. Where do you think those oranges came from? Like with the Palestinian sounding name.
Never knew those were Palestinian treats.
Not
to mention, those like Rachel. Are those like Rachel Corey pancakes?
Yes. Yeah, that's exactly what those are. But yeah, among many of the things that the Israelis have tried to take upon themselves in their cuisine. Was it Jerry Seinfeld over in Tel Aviv eating falafel? Okay. I wonder where that name came from. That very Arabic sounding, sure. But
so Brett, I did want to ask you, being Jewish, how has it been for you, just as far as, obviously you're a writer, so obviously you're writing on this, but as far as communicating this to, I think, many Jews who may not, prescribe to what you're seeing and what you're kind of saying to them, like, how have you been being able to deal with that personally?
Well, first of all, first of all, I'll just say I am eligible for birthright citizenship, someone who's the adopted son of a Jewish woman who's never been to Israel. I have the right to apply for citizenship in a country where someone from there, a Palestinian Arab from there, can't ever go back. But I'm an atheist. I'm Jewish in that only, technically Jewish. Second, I will say one of the most heartening things that I've seen throughout this genocide is that in unprecedented numbers, Jewish Americans are standing up and saying, no, not in my name. Some of the most moving protests I've seen were the occupation of, I think it was Grand Central Station or Penn Station in New York. Just beautiful, and putting their bodies on the line and getting arrested, and then dealing with things like, you're not a real Jew, you're a self-hating Jew, you're just traitor, this and that and the other thing. I don't have any problems because my family, the half of my family that are Jewish, they're either apolitical or they respect my intellect and they respect my knowledge, for one thing, unlike my Republican Christian side of the family who think I got that book learning. So, and then the black people are the most racist people because we have BET, we have our own channel, which is probably owned by white people. But anyway, no, it hasn't been really an issue. You just got to avoid the shit online. You got to avoid, Twitter. It's just going to suck you into a hole. You're not going to convince anybody. On the other hand, I do have people from that Republican side of my family, and I think there might be ulterior motives, but they're whispering in my ear on the side, hate me for everything else, but they're like, you're so right about, you're so right about Israel. Why are those people? Well, that's an anti-Semite as well. That's what that is. And I don't like that term, but that's a Jew hater. I got like a few Jew haters who hate everything else I do, but now all of a sudden, because of this, they're like sending me all these. I'm like, I know.
I use that to like transition. Yeah, but what about this? And Reagan did this and this, and he was connected to this, and it's like their brains. It's like that hatred allows them to be open-minded, like unlike others in particular aspects where you mention this stuff, and again, it's just dismissive. Like, what do you know? You're not there. You can't. Beheaded babies. How dare you? So
you're not there. The you're not there gets me. I wasn't. Were you at Auschwitz? I say. Oh, but it was pretty bad there, right? You know how bad it was, right? You weren't, or like go there. I'm like, I'd love to, but I can't go because I publicly advocate for BDS, so I'm on a list of not able to go there.
Can any of them go to Gaza?
I think one CNN woman got in, but no, you can't. There's a reason for that, and that's a whole other thing. There's 96 journalists have been killed because they're killing the truth tellers.
I don't even mean the journalists. I mean the average Israeli. They are not allowed to enter.
Well, unless you're in the average Israeli is very much allowed to enter as long as they're in the uniform and riding on the back of a Merkava tank or something.
Yes.
Like that.
Well, and that's the thing that gets me too. Is that even with October 7th, which we'll get into who did that. because it definitely might not have been Hamas from what we've heard. You know, there was some particular Israeli tanks taking some shots from what I hear. What's this? Collin, do you remember the name of this? What do they call this thing where they anything to defeat terrorism is available to them, including killing their own hostages? I forget the name of this.
The Hannibal Directive.
That's
the Hannibal Directive.
Right.
But I will say this. No, I mean, I mean, yes, there were, and they're not being forthcoming about the number of their own people that they killed. Let's
Yes.
I mean, let's just get. I can't be part of anything. There was it was an act. It was a bold, and I'll go this far to say it was an extremely bold act of resistance. If you study any slave revolt, look at the glorious Haitian Revolution, or any of the black slave revolts in the United States that we now celebrate, maybe even put them on postage stamps. You really want to know what happened during that? White people got ripped to shreds, ripped from limb to limb, raped, murdered, roasted, this and that. No babies were roasted in Gaza. But no, I would have to put my foot down and say, yes, Hamas and others and whoever fucking wanted to get, they got in and they did kill. And I will say that Israel hasn't been forthcoming about the number of their own people that were killed.
I'll go with allegedly.
The vast majority were yeah, right. And there, I just had to be on the record about that. Yes,
I feel you.
Most of the people that were killed by Palestinians, and I don't want to. But have you guys talked about? Have you done a show or anything on the 9/11 like foreknowledge that they had?
Yes, I was about to head there. Yeah, we were waiting on that one.
That's all.
Yes, not just 9/11, but October 7th. There's shorting happening.
And like you said, conspiracy theory. No, fucking conspiracy fact.
Yes.
There's very good reasons why Netanyahu. There were suitcases of money delivered via Qatar to Hamas for quote, and I quote, direct New York Times, payments for quiet.
Right.
Hamas was being paid because, and the origin story, of course, we could get into as well. Hamas.
I was getting there too.
Hamas and Netanyahu are so symbiotic, so sickly symbiotic. They need each other for survival. What's going to happen the minute this is over?
Why were they made?
To fight prosecution for Netanyahu, but the PLO.
Yeah.
PLO. And so and why is Israel so dead set against having the PLO have any kind of control? This ain't your grandpa's PLO. These are freaking lapdogs of we look at it and we're like, they have no legitimacy, the PLO, because they're too, they're bought and paid for and lapdogs of, oppressors. But
it's the idea that they could suddenly start being more than that, That's the problem.
Yeah, right. I'll believe it when I see it. Like when the Democrats.
Yeah, same problem. They fight progressives everywhere for the same reason, even though none of them are doing anything actually to change anything. They're like, yeah, but they might, so it's, what is it? Who has it said that Hamas was the child of Israel? I forget that one, but
it's the same. It's kind of analogous to the Al Qaeda situation.
Yes,
the Mujahideen.
Same
kind of thing.
That was in Rambo, the brave fighters of the Mujahideen.
Oh boy, the moral equivalent of the founding fathers, according to Ronald Reagan.
Oh God, which we talked about the Jerusalem conference. Old Begin. That Israeli prime minister talking about,
the terrorists.
What? Yes. Well, this goes into
literal terrorists.
What's the book? It's literally like it's the one that the actual administration said was like full of crap, but they still gave it to everyone, and it controlled our foreign policy for years. It's the Terror or something. I forget it, but it was written by someone that went to the Jerusalem conference and Israeli owned, and this is a place where this guy said what can be decided by the ballot should not be decided by the bullet. Well, I see a lot of decisions made by the bullet in Israel. So, who's the real terrorist in that decision? So they're certainly using our form of, shock and awe for sure. So I mean, literally our shock and awe. They're buying our weapons. So, but yeah,
for free.
Well,
We're buying
and
them, you and I.
Yes, there's talks of there's talks about, you know, this paper tiger syndrome of Israel and us, but you know, I hear Russians specifically talk about, you know, their stuff is meant for show, not actual warfare, right? Our stuff is made cheaper and is more effective, you know, and I think you're seeing Israel cannot withstand an actual invasion force against these people who know their land far better than they can. I mean, I don't know. It might be,
Well,
you know,
right
some
there.
parallels
That's it right there.
to some,
That's it
you
right
know,
there. You hit it on.
redcoats.
Don't fuck with people in their own homelands. You know, people defending their homeland or fighting against oppression tend to endure, tend to win against tremendous technological odds. Peasants living in tunnels in Vietnam, you know, defeated them. You know, not just the United States, the French, the Chinese invaded a couple times. The Japanese also.
Yeah.
So yeah, people, and that's the same thing I do in Russia, and it's unpopular on the far left. But I said, you know what? I know it was provoked, but the minute Russia crossed that line, I said that their great technological superiority and numerical superiority ain't gonna mean shit. I mean, they might grind out eventually, but just don't mess with people in their own homelands. And you know, you can argue over the definition of what is homeland, but between biblical times and the early 1900s, Jews never numbered more than 10% of Palestine. And the ones that were there lived in relative peace and harmony with their neighbors. This whole thing that is an ancient feud, no, it's not. No, it's not. It's when the settler colonialism, I'm talking about not Jews from Palestine, not Jews from the Middle East, but Jews from Poland. Jews from countries that were escaping from horrific oppression turned around and perpetrated similar, if not worse, oppression. It reminds me when I took my white girlfriend to Jamaica. Woo, she thought she was going home to the motherlands. For her, she never got treated worse. Or gay people, they got in charge of Provincetown. You ever been to Provincetown, Rhode Island? They got bad names for straight people there. You know, they call them breeders and whatnot. Anytime, you know, the oppressor can become the oppressed. And the saddest thing as a Jew for me, Jews have an ancient quest for tradition. That's why you see so many, especially the very religious ones that are anti-Zionist. They'll say Zionism is the worst thing that happened to the Judaism. You know, this is not sustainable. As people that strives for wisdom and knowledge and justice, to see someone who suffered one of the greatest genocides of all time, and I didn't use the G word before until now, but turn around and commit a great act of ethnic cleansing, the Nakba, which, you know, you could say it's genocide, to turn around and do something like that to a people that had nothing, just for some Lebensraum, just for the same reason why they were just almost wiped out in Europe. And then when you set up a system like that, you have to double down. That's why they're so brazen. You have to double down. And you know what? From their point of view, they do have to occupy the Golan Heights because they have their reasons for doing. But as we said in Jersey and Newark growing up, don't want no shit, don't start no shit.
Right.
Simple.
I mean, we've talked about the treatment of Ethiopian Jews, not doing great there. We've talked about the treatment of African people in Ukraine too, not doing great there either. Like, there's plenty of stuff that, like, you get down to it, they definitely just don't like melanated people for some reason, you know.
Right.
So
well, it's not that they don't like them. If there are ways that they can use us for their gain,
exploit,
like the Malawi story, or exploit them, then they will do it. So
yeah, but the minute you speak up for your people, it's like, what are you doing? So, you know, whatever.
So I did want to ask you, Brett, and then I think we can let you go. In your opinion, you know, obviously, and I'm just seeing on Twitter, especially, like, a lot of these Israeli influencers who just on my feed, just because saying all this propaganda, you know, and not like pushing, like, they're spouting their propaganda, like, versus someone like you, like, and we follow each other and I barely see any of your tweets at all. So, like, what do you say to people who know, especially for those who know the truth, and I guess right now is very hard to kind of convince people otherwise, in terms of the truth, in terms of Israel and all of that. Like, what would you say for people that they can do, I think, just to kind of counter like the propaganda that we're seeing online and in media regarding Israel?
Oh, that's a hell of a question there, Colin. I mean, if I had to answer that question, I don't know. The way I always looked at my work is if I could get through to just one person. I was a Zionist growing up. If I could get through to just one person, but you would think that with these platforms we have, if we weren't being throttled, we can get through a lot more. But I can't. I can't give you a happy answer like that, because you could give facts until you're blue in the face, especially in this post-truth era. People are like, well, that's some propaganda that you got from where? For example, this whole thing about we don't believe the numbers that Hamas is putting out as far as the Gaza Health Ministry, as far as the death toll. Well, A, they're known for being very data driven. B, the Israeli media, the Israeli government, and the United States government, every State Department report cites those numbers because they're known to be accurate. C,
they're known to be.
You can see the videos.
They're known to be on the conservative side. Like,
absolutely, because absolutely, and and so I have no answer to that question. It makes me want to take the world and just grab it by the shoulders, and there's just I can't answer. I hate though people ask me, what are you gonna do? But here's the thing. Again, like I said earlier, a record number of U.S. Jews, generationally speaking, and the younger generations, they know what's up. This might end up costing Biden the election, because what's the biggest contested swing state out there, population wise? Michigan, right? This might end up, and it brings me no joy. But it won't be better. It wouldn't be better under Trump. Under Trump or any of the Republicans. Although
basically anyone in government, considering how bought out they are with AIPAC.
But again, though.
Go ahead.
Give me 1 second. It gives me great joy to see the number of members of Congress, white people like Betty McCollum, people that, there's a record number of members of Congress, House members especially only, that are standing up. They could say up there using the A word, not the G word yet, but they're calling it an apartheid. That there's not long enough timeline for it to bear fruition before everybody in Gaza is dead. But it does give me hope that you wouldn't have seen this 10 or 20, even 10 years ago, 5 years ago. Sorry. But
no, me and Collin have looked at this frequently when we've seen a ton of Democratic publications putting out like, hey guys, this might hurt Biden, and it's like, that's what you care about? Like,
so I'm gonna pardon a bunch of weed smokers now, like 30 of them.
Right, like, but it's also, to me, they talk about the lesser of evils. Trump puts a bad face to bad policy. Like, you want to talk about the lesser of evils. Like, if he tries to do some dumb shit, there is a unified front that goes, hey, fuck you. But when Biden's in office, where are they at? Like, that's our issue. I don't like either one of them. I barely like the third party options. But that's me, So, having said that, I think it was what? You put up a Malcolm X quote today of like, the Democrats should know better, therefore are like more racist, So, I don't know. I'm completely disillusioned with that entire system at this point but I just find it funny that people like, especially those publications, not you, Brett, but they're like, that's their focus, is that they might lose a Democratic election. And I'm like, y'all done lost that. Like, that was been done. There's multitudes of reasons for that, not just this. But if you're not worried about, if you're only worried about this because of how it might affect your election, like, there's something wrong. So,
but hey, if it stops the genocide,
right. Which I could totally see Trump being like, I despise war. I'm the least warring president ever, and I see this, and like,
and he was.
Kanye, he told me the Jews are bad. He told me Kanye's very good people.
You apologize.
Right. Like,
you apologize today.
I think someone grabbed his phone from him is what happened. But what do I know? He's probably lost it in a fucking, party somewhere. Anyway, like, it definitely didn't sound like Kanye. for sure. You know, Kim must have grabbed that phone again and been like, hold on, you know? So
no, I don't think Kim has anything to do with him anymore. So.
You never know, man.
But
you never know.
You brought this up, so Brett, but this will be the last question on the reel. You mentioned you were a Zionist at one point. So what brought you out of it?
Well, I grew up in a Jewish, New Jersey, a Reagan Republican in the 1980s. I believed what I was told, and I believe what I was a very precocious guy. I was ahead of my time, so I was reading like Newsweek magazine, and like when I was like 8, I was just fully steeped in the mainstream whatever. But then it started in the 2000s. I remember when 9/11 happened, I was thinking, I hope this is a country and not like some terrorist, because I want to see somebody get nuked. And that was the last time I remember having these kind of right-wing thoughts. I started traveling that year, and I started reading a lot, and I started dating women that weren't Americans. And there's stark ways that they could teach you things.
Yep.
And I just I read
that's all we need to know.
One of them gave me 2 books. She gave me Angela Davis's Abolition Democracy.
Yeah.
And Sin's People's History of the United States. Excuse me, which led me to Noam Chomsky, and I read, it was right after 9/11. He had Hegemony or Survival, I believe it was. And so I just started reading, and I was in Italy when the Iraq invasion happened. And every single building had these, at Bologna, which is the reddest city and most left-wing city, and they had every window had those rainbow flags with pace, with peace on it, 90-some%. And there's Italy in the war. Berlusconi was in charge, and they're bombing Iraq with us. And that was really the wake-up call. And then I learned about, I just started reading and opening my eyes. I was 29, 30 years old at the time. That was 20 years ago. And, no turning back. I started writing shortly thereafter. And, the more you write, the more you research. As far as Israel goes, first of all, the claims, the supremacist claims of God's chosen people and, the promised lands, you get through that, cut through that quickly. But when you actually started studying the actual history of Zionism as a settler colonial movement, as a European settler colonial movement, and, cutting through all that bullshit, and then putting one and one together, and, excuse me, every war, the way every war was portrayed was as Arabs looking to wipe Israel off the face of the earth. No, most of them were preemptive. 48, no, but 56, 67, 73, yes. Excuse me. And then, then the first one was Cast Lead, actually happened before my eyes. Was the first one I watched in 2008-09, and all the subsequent invasions on Gaza. And it's a pattern. You see it. And these genocidal statements are nothing new. Remember Ayelet Shaked, who was in the cabinet earlier, said we got to go into the nest of the vipers and kill them all, and their babies too. Because this is nothing. None of it, anything new. You can go back. We talked about you talked about was it Jaffa cakes?
Yeah.
Go back and can read. You can read Moshe Dayan writing. There were these Arab villages, and they had these names. They deny the Nakba. They deny burning these 600 villages, but it's in their own words. Like, these places are not there anymore because we erased them. You have people coming forward, like Ventura, I forgot the guy's name, who's participated in the massacres. You have great Israeli historians like Benny Morris. And so you just read, learn, and at 50, after decades of observing successive invasions of Gaza and the ratio each time, I predicted it would be 5,000 to 10,000 this time. I was wrong, because they have an unofficial 100 eyes for an eye policy in Israel. You look at the comparative statistics of every one of the invasions, it's generally 100 to 1 casualties. But man, they're going for it this time. It's like and this is 2023. You'd like to think that in the history books in the future, this will be the last exclamation point on this kind of slaughter. I thought humanity was done with this kind of slaughter. I didn't, especially in a so-called, democratic country.
As Ron Perlman would like to tell us. This is, you mentioned that 9/11 thing. There was, and I hate, ADHD makes me never remember any names. So, but other people will definitely remember and will be screaming them at me. But there was a classic guy who, after 9/11, went in and talked to this general who was like, well, the plan is we're going to actually take, here's this list of 7 countries we're actually planning to go and take. Iraq had nothing to do with this, but that's where we're going to start, and that was pretty much given to them by the Israelis. So,
Project for a New American Century.
Yes.
The Project for a New American Century. Yeah.
And then Obama did what? Took 2 wars and made them 7?
Bombed more countries than Bush.
Yes.
Fact.
Yep. He ran out of bombs. Ran out. So
blew up a 16-year-old American teenager, and they asked him about why did you blow up this just American child? His fucking press secretary said he should have had a more responsible father. And then Trump killed his sister.
He didn't listen to enough record players like Biden told him. But yeah, American politics is such a joke. But anyway, anything left to add on that note, Collin?
No, I'm good. I think we just have to have you on again.
Yeah.
I think more frequently than just a year out. But yeah, we really appreciate you being on again, Brett.
I appreciate the work you guys do.
No problem. Where can people find you in case people want to follow your work or get up to date on what you've been up to?
As you have on your screen, I'm at Brett Wilkins SF on Twitter. I don't do the Insta, the TikTok. I'm old. Brett Wilkins on Facebook as well. And commondreams.org, 100% reader supported. It's our donation drive end of the year right now. We're 100% reader supported, and we appreciate all donations. If you want fearless, truth-telling journalism, independent journalism, support Independent News Network, support Common Dreams. One of my friends donated to Truthout because they published my articles there. She's like, I want to support you. And she's like, oh, we thought you were Truthout. She called it, gave her money back. So fun. But anyway, no, support independent media and keep up the good work, keep fighting the good fight, and keep telling the truth.
We're trying, and yeah, we definitely appreciate your work. I mean, this, we reference you all the time, but that's why we do what we do. We want to give people who normally do not get a highlight, the highlight in your work, and you're definitely one of the better ones that we follow and watch out for. But I think especially on this topic in particular, we've always known this about you. You've been really
you're on this.
So I think it just makes that. Yeah. So we just had to have you on again.
Speaking of support,
more stuff.
You can also support us. We're independent media. Head to these places. Patreon.com/Indie News Network. Look at that. You can just give us some money until Patreon decides to not give it to us, because I'm sure they're able to do that.
Yeah.
But whatever. You can find all our links, indienews.network. We're right down there. Please go support Brett. He does good work. Anything else, Care Bear? I think that's it. That's it. That's it, everybody. That's the interview. So we appreciate everyone showing up and listening. We know there are other people available to watch, and we appreciate you being here. And thanks for helping us get to 1.77K this year. So hopefully this next year is going to get more than that. We would like to get to 2K. Speaking of, if I pull this over here, here we go. Hold on. For the slideshow. This right here. Help INN get to 2K. Look at that. Please like and subscribe. Please share. We're heavily suppressed, so every little bit helps. And make sure to leave a comment if you're watching this as a clip, or if you're watching this stream. We always appreciate comments if you came in late. But yeah, that's it. Next week we're gonna do INN News again on Wednesday. It'll be the first one of the year, so stay tuned for that. 9 p.m. Eastern as always. But otherwise, have a good new year, everyone. Hopefully it's better than the last. As always, kids, labels are bad. Stay independent. Good night, fam.
We want to talk right down to earth in a language that everybody here can easily understand.
us nothing and think we're bluffing about coming for your heads. Why play civil if you won't listen to 50,000 dead? Now we know our mission, we form a militia, make Congress a prison. Why play civil when all these dead won't make you listen? What's more American than slaying your oppressors? What's more American than liberty or death first? Man, I thought we were founded on abolishing the tyranny of those who would starve a village all to live empirically. And I regret that I have only one life to give for my cause now that I can see the cause so clearly. I want our leaders, regardless of party, to fear me. I will pick my targets and assassinate them lyrically. I will bring a mountain to the town square, hook them to the pillory and leave them there. Hillary, I'll see you there. Hillary, I'll see you there. You can't keep giving us nothing and think we're bluffing about coming for your heads. Why play civil if you won't listen to 50,000 dead? Now we know our mission, we form a militia, make Congress a prison. Why play civil when all these dead won't make you listen? Welcome to the fantasy of rhetoric. Welcome to the last of the free speech while we can get it. And I promise you can get it. All you corporate Democrats, second wave Confederates, GOP illusionists, and neo-Nazi bureaucrats. And Stephen fucking Miller, I will see you in the aftermath. When all the laws are dust, there's just moral justice after that. And I will hunt you through the wasteland if it comes to that. So I can rub you in the dirt like a cheap human Brillo pad. I can sleep fine when our beds are burning, Stephen, but I'll turn around and run into the blaze to get my pillow back. As long as I can lay my head down, I can live with that. I can deal with a little ash. I can feel like a little of the old me burn with the bed and the rest of my past. The old world where we all lived and we can't get back. The old world where you didn't give and you'd still get back. Where you could rake in 12 billion and give none back. Those days are behind us, the virus will kill all that. Your wealth is behind us and kindness is meant for the past. Our leaders would bind us and starve us and call it a fast. A sacrament meant for their God that they garnish in cash. And they feed it the poor by the hundreds, that's all that it asks. Its hunger is legion and people in need are all it will have. So our only chance is to starve it and hope that it turns on them. You can't keep giving us nothing and think we're bluffing about coming for your hands. Can't keep giving us nothing and think we're bluffing about coming for your hands.